BruCast is back, baby.
This BruCast episode is brought to you by the BruCast store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BruCast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now bru-cast.com/store. Link below. Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BruCast episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BruCast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where we upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links on the description below. Our guest today is Bracha Goetz. Bracha Goetz is a wellness expert and the Harvard-educated author of more than 40 books that help children's souls shine. She's also the author of a candid memoir about overcoming food addictions joyfully and spiritually. All right, so how are you doing, Bracha?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure. I saw your profile. I was like, okay, we need to talk. As I mentioned in your short introduction, you're an author, a very successful author. You also know a lot about food addiction. Am I right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, so let's talk about it. So I would like to start, if you're okay for you, with the book part, the author part. How that came to be? When did you discover that that's what I love doing? I love writing books for children. How did it started? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like this. I had a few minutes. My young children were playing outside nicely.
Yeah.
I was in Israel. They were playing in the playground. So I brought a notebook with me, like ideas I had for writing, and I had a few minutes. So I wrote it out on the loose leaf paper. I wrote this story that was in my mind. I put it in an envelope and I mailed it to the United States. And about 6 weeks later, I heard back from a publisher that the book was accepted. And I was like, wow, this is how you write children's books. I could do it. And it was amazing because I had no computer. Back then it was like typewriters. I didn't have that. I just wrote it by hand on this loose leaf paper and stuck it in an envelope. And it was really exciting. So then I felt, wow, I can do this. And I kept going.
Wow, that's amazing. So typewriter. So let's see if I got this right. You wrote an entire children's book on a typewriter, and you just mail it to whom? To like an editor, a publisher?
I didn't even type it up. I hand wrote it. I just wrote it on paper and put it in the envelope. No typewriter, no computer, nothing. And I got a list of a few publishers and I sent it and one of them accepted it. So it was pretty amazing. I must have sent out like maybe 5 envelopes with it. Oh my gosh. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just sent it to that one publisher. I really don't remember. But all I remember is that that publisher accepted the book. And that was the beginning because my goal was to write the books that I wished I had as a child.
Oh.
My books are kind of unusual because they explain really deep spiritual concepts in a very simple, joyful way to very young children. Like, people picture like I went to Harvard, like I'm going to write things that are really like intellectual, but what I love to do is to get things down to their essence, get ideas as simple as possible so that even a child could understand.
Could you give us an example?
So that's what I'm doing.
That's amazing. Could you give us an example of this essence?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to give you, oh my gosh, I have so many examples, but this is one. Listen, this is called The Invisible Book. The Invisible Book is about all the things that we believe in that are invisible. Okay, so like if I drop this book right now, it falls down. Why? Because there's an invisible force. There's gravity. It's pulling it down, right? And time is invisible. The wind is invisible. As the book explains, our feelings are invisible. And you cannot see what I'm thinking. Our feelings, our thoughts. How can a magnet pick up a paperclip? I put that in there in the book. How can a magnet just pick this up? Something invisible, an invisible force, electromagnetism. So there's so many things we believe in that are invisible. So it's not that hard. It's not that far-fetched to believe in an invisible God, an invisible cosmic force in the universe, and to believe that we too are invisible. We can see our bodies, but we are in essence spiritual beings that go on forever and ever. It doesn't just end when we are, put in the earth and that's the end of us. No, that makes very little sense. There's there's a whole essence to us, so we can see the effects of all these invisible forces in our lives, and yet we don't actually see them. We don't actually see the gravity. We don't see time. We don't see God. We don't see our souls. I'm just explaining how these spiritual concepts are not out of our ordinary way of thinking about all these other forces in our lives that we also can't see.
Man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, and it's crazy that you found a simple way of conveying all of that, and that's the hard part. So, I saw this interview with Steve Jobs, right? And Steve Jobs, he had this simplicity mindset. He said, "I don't have time to worry about 10,000 different like nuances and details. Just boil it down and bring it to me, because I don't need anything else. Otherwise, how am I going to do my day-to-day job? Just bring me the essence." And he said several times, that's the hard part. It's not because to get caught up in all the details and all the nuances that most people do it, like in every aspects of their lives, in their finances, like in their hobbies, like they get distracted with this huge amount of detail. It requires a tremendous amount of effort to sit down, analyze it, boil it down, and understand the essence of it. And you did it. You did it with this book. That's amazing.
Exactly. We get lost in the details. There's simple truths about life that when we understand them, we can live the most joyful lives. But we get lost. We forget that we were given this incredible garden to enjoy it in gratitude. And that's what goes on. We start thinking about all that we're missing, all the lacks, instead of simply enjoying what we have. And you brought up Steve Jobs. He is a fantastic example because at the end of his life, he got to this point of understanding he had a gradual illness. So he knew he was dying. And toward the end of his life, he was able to understand what was really important in life. And that was things like love. He began to understand the most important things in life. He was very wealthy. He realized power, wealth, fame, he can't take it with him. Love, spiritual concepts that you can take with you. These invisible things go with you. That's the amazing part, not the physical stuff. And his last words were, when he died, he said, the same thing happened when my father passed away. So I really related to what happened with Steve Jobs. He was he was dying, his eyes were closed, and they suddenly flew open. And we don't know what he saw, but he said, "Oh, wow, wow." The exact same thing happened with my father. My father had Alzheimer's. He was not well for years, and we cared for him at home. And we were all surrounding him when he passed from this world. No breath. He was breathing his last breath. And as he breathed his last breath, his eyes flew open. He didn't speak at that point. He wasn't really talking, but he just saw something. And we saw it with his eyes. His eyes had been closed for a long time. Then suddenly they were open with such awe and wonder. And then he was gone. Yeah, it's something amazing to be part of when you can spiritually accompany a person when their soul passes from this world into the next.
All right. So Steve Jobs, he. So when you say he opened his eyes and he said, "Wow!" Like was like excitement. Excitement was amazement. Like what kind of feeling or sensation do you think they're experiencing at that moment?
That's what it seemed like, that sense of awe,
Okay.
and which is, I hope to explain later on the pleasure ladder, it is the highest level of pleasure there is, the
Mm.
sense of awe and wonder. Yeah.
All right, all right. So, I heard all those good stories about Steve Jobs as well, but I also heard a lot of like bad stuff. He mistreated a lot his employees. So I don't want to put him in a pedestal. I think like
No, no,
everyone.
that was his life
Yeah.
before.
Oh,
The illness changed him.
oh, okay.
It was at the end of his life that he began to appreciate and finally understand what was important in life.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so we covered love a little bit, and that's one of the topics, one of the topics of life. Let's put it that way. That I also think people gets confused or get lost throughout life. Did you ever wrote any book about love, like boiling it down, the essence of love?
Yes, that's okay. I'm going to get into this now. I
Okay,
got to explain this.
let's do
So,
it.
okay, I got to talk about the pleasure ladder because
Let's do
I
it.
have really devoted my life to this now. So, I mean, writing children's books too, this is a big part, but I am spreading the ancient wisdom about the pleasure ladder far and wide. And I think you're in Germany, is that right?
Is that yeah, yeah, that's right.
I'm loving spreading it. I made a list of all the different places that I'm going to on the internet, which countries I'm traveling to, and just spreading this around the world. I'm loving it. So, yeah, that's what's so awesome about podcasts. I'm sitting right here and I could fly any place. It's beyond. So, okay, so the lowest level of the pleasure ladder, I'm going to hold this up. This is like the basic levels of the pleasure ladder. There's 5 rungs on the pleasure ladder.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see what it corresponds to. Our 5 fingers, right? Like, in other words, we have the pleasure is within our hands. We can bring joy into our lives at any moment. We have the power in our hands. So these 5 levels, they correspond to the 5 levels of the human soul. It's totally universal. And this is not coming from my head. This is the most ancient mystical wisdom. And it's just being it's as relevant now as it ever was. So it's timeless, you
So
know?
you did not came up with that.
No, no
Mm.
way. No, this is what changed my life. From a life of living with addictions to a life of tremendous joy.
All right.
So that's why I am sharing it with everybody. The lowest level are all the physical pleasures in this world, the natural physical pleasures, like all the natural foods, um, spending time in nature, moving our bodies, swimming, dancing, yoga, gardening, running, walking, whatever you love to do, music, all the sensual pleasures that we enjoy, if we experience them with gratitude, that brings us up to the lowest level of pleasure, all the natural physical pleasures. Like, I'm going to give an example with an orange. This is
Hmm.
my favorite example because,
Okay.
it's individually packaged like all the fruit, and the fruit are green. They're all green. They're camouflaged in with the leaves until they're ready for us. And then they become the most brightest, beautiful colors, and they're calling, "We're ready," so that we can enjoy looking at them. We can enjoy smelling them, and then we get to enjoy tasting them. So you see, the peel, it keeps the sweet juiciness in for months. It's amazing. Then we open it and we enjoy the taste. So it looks beautiful, it smells beautiful, it tastes wonderful. And and then when we finish eating it, we find the seeds of eternity inside. And these seeds become trees, become they can become infinite more oranges. All of this in an orange. This is experiencing an orange with mindful gratitude. All of this is contained in just eating an orange. So expand that to all the natural gifts in the world. I mean, we'd be in a state of absolute ecstasy all the time if we really, really recognized all the wisdom and loving compassion that's packed into even just one orange.
That sounds
So
that sounds
that's the
amazing.
lowest level.
That's very interesting. But how can we live life constantly in this level, like in this gratitude mindset? I would say it's very hard. I try to practice gratitude because mindfulness and meditation every morning. But after I'm done with it, when I do it, after I'm done with it, I just forget about it. So
Ah,
you know what I mean? I just
so
live the rest of the day without even remember that I did the exercise in the morning.
number one, I think it is affecting your life because they found that when people have a gratitude practice like you have, it actually changes your happiness set point to a higher level of happiness throughout your whole day. And, they found that studies have found that if a person, God forbid, becomes paralyzed, or God forbid, or not God forbid, or wins a lottery of
Wow.
$1 million, 6 months later, they're at the same level of happiness they were at before these huge things happened to them in their lives. So before they won $1 million, or before they became paralyzed, 6 months later, they've adjusted and they're as happy as they were before these major things happened in their lives. But a person that begins a gratitude practice, even a simple one like just practicing gratitude in the morning every day when you wake up consciously, it actually changes your level of happiness in your life.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing because one thing's for sure, whenever I do it, at the moment that I'm doing it, I feel great, right?
Yes.
So it's good to know that it ripples throughout the rest of my life. That's very interesting. So
Yes,
mhm.
I want to say this. You are creating neural pathways, gratitude pathways in your brain. So the more that you practice it, the more gratitude pathways you're creating, and the easier it becomes to continue to be a grateful person. when we when we drive on a road that has never been driven on, it's very gravelly and hard and we feel awkward and weird. But the more we do it, the more we practice gratitude, the easier it becomes. And we're actually creating, we're firing more gratitude neurons, and the firing is creating more wiring in the neuroplasticity of our brains that are becoming more grateful.
That's amazing. Bracha, while we are still in the gratitude subject, I would like to ask you, because that's something for me. It took me a while to learn, and I don't even. The question is, how do you practice gratitude? Because
Yes.
I didn't know it before, and I still don't not sure if I do. So, if I'm doing it correctly, so how do you do it?
Well, what are you doing?
Okay, so the way I learned is you just sit in the morning, you open your notebook or journal, and you just write things that you love, and it can be as big or as small as you want. So I love my cats, I love sushi, I love this new video game that I bought, I love my morning coffee, and it can be anything, can be I love playing. So like a lot of things for me, they repeat over the days, but I find myself from time to time discovering, rediscover things that I used to love or I still love. So, and that makes me feel great. But I'm not sure if this is the main way that people do it. It's the only way, or if there's different ways. So that's the way I learn, and I wanted to ask you, like, do you do the same way, or there are different techniques?
Great question. What you're doing is totally wonderful. And you can make a new rule if you want to,
Mm,
that you try not to repeat the things that you were grateful for the day before.
mm,
That's forcing you to create something new to be grateful for. Be Helps you be a little bit more creative in thinking of new things to be grateful for, like your fingernails or your eyelashes. It could be, you could just go any direction and just keep going, trying not to repeat something that you've already been grateful for. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that at all. It's a totally individual thing how we
okay.
do this. What all that matters is that we're increasing gratitude in our lives. For me, I I was not I was searching desperately in my teenage years for the purpose to life. Um, and I I feel that that's kind of why I developed the food addictions, because I became more and more aware of emptiness in my life. What really matters? Now, I looked very successful on the outside. Um, I studied a bunch of religions. I got involved with Buddhism and Christian Science and all kinds of things, environmentalism, experimenting with drugs, relationships, all these things, searching for what brings meaning, social action, and I was still left with emptiness. I started studying very hard, searching for ultimate wisdom, and that's how I ended up going to Harvard. Because I was looking for, I want the pinnacle of wisdom. That's what I wanted to find. Yeah,
What
I
did you
really
study
did.
at Harvard?
What?
What did you study at Harvard?
Ah, I majored in psychology and I was pre-med. And after graduating, I went on to medical school. And I was studying to be a psychiatrist. After my first year of medical school, I had a 6-week vacation. I went to Israel and I didn't come back. I didn't return to America. I left medical school and I learned about my ancient heritage, and began to immerse myself in this spiritual study. And it wasn't even a hard decision for me. That's the amazing part. It was like, of course, I have found something that now fills my soul. My soul, which was Jewish, and I did not know about my own heritage, the wisdom in my own heritage. And of course, there were elements of Buddhism and Christian Science that I loved, but they didn't fit. They weren't the missing puzzle piece that my soul needed. So when I finally found this ancient wisdom, it was like, this is what I need. This is what I need also to teach now from now on. And that's what I integrate into my children's books, the ancient wisdom. And I went on a whole different path in life.
All right, so we're still talking about the pleasure letter, right? Is that the ancient wisdom that you found in Turkey?
Yes, this is a very valuable piece of the
Oh,
ancient wisdom that is so translatable and so helpful to everybody in the world. So I'm really devoting a lot of my time now, in my retirement, to spreading this wisdom to everybody.
all right. So when you say ancient wisdom, it's very broad, right? And if you could define it a little bit better, what you mean by it. So you
Yes,
meant, yeah. Go ahead.
did you ever hear of the Kabbalah?
Oof. I heard that name before, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's the ancient mystical teachings, um, of the Torah, like the Bible. I was listening to another one of your podcasts, and you were speaking with someone. There's what's called the there we go. There we go. I love it.
So Kabbalah,
Exactly.
sometimes translated as mysticism or occult knowledge, is a part of Jewish tradition that deals with the essence of God. Whether a sacred text, an experience, or the way things work, Kabbalists believe that God moves in mysterious ways. All right.
Yeah. So that's it. Einstein was really teaching this too. E equals mc squared. This was He got to the simplicity of the universe. Mass and energy are interchangeable, and with the constant being the speed of light. It's everything, everything, all of mass can become energy, and it's all connected to the same source energy. That's that's really what I have a quote from Albert Einstein here in front of me. Look deeply into nature and you will understand everything better. That's that's how the ancient wisdom can come to all of us, through really appreciating nature, really appreciating the the infinite wisdom and infinite loving kindness that's tucked inside of nature.
So look deep into nature and you will find what?
And you will understand everything better.
And you understand everything better. Man,
That's one of a quote from. He has so many amazing quotes. I mean, because again, he was into expressing the essence, the deepest secrets of the universe, bringing them out, and that's what this is about. Um, I could. Oh, so now to answer your question about love, that's the second level on the pleasure ladder. So we just discussed nature. That's all here. Um, Feeling gratitude to the amazing nature that we have, right?
mm.
Now, love. Love, the ancient mystical definition of love is appreciating the virtues of another. That's what love is. Now, as I explained, this is all empowering, that we can bring joy into our lives at any moment. How can we bring love into our lives at any moment if we're all by ourselves? The answer is, even in solitary confinement in prison, a person can bring love into their life by just focusing on the virtues of another. Let's say, remembering a kindness that a grandmother once did for them. And they suddenly get a warm emotional feeling of love, and they're inspired to be a better person. Alone in a prison cell, a person can bring love into their lives. We can all bring love into our lives, focusing on the virtues of others. What do we appreciate about other beings? It could also be an animal, a pet, another person. That's how we can bring love into our lives.
All right, that's very interesting. Because it's a ladder, I assume that in order to climb up the ladder and reach to number four, love, you first need to have gratitude. So going back to number five, physical, you need to have gratitude to your life, for your life and everything around you in order to climb up to love. Is that correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You know, sometimes do you ever climb a ladder or climb a step and skip a step? You could.
Oh.
You could do it. You could do it. But whatever works for you, it's the easiest level. The lowest level are appreciating the basic goodness in our lives, like an orange, like a grape, like a raisin, like a peach, like a plum. It's the easiest thing. Like, and in your gratitude chart, the basic physical things that you have, those can come the easiest to be appreciative and to grow our gratitude muscles, right? So, but even a baby learns to appreciate who's taking care of them, who's nursing me. You know, we develop love as little children too, so we can be doing them at the same time. Um, but they all, each level up brings more connection, takes us out of being in a selfish place, brings more connection, and each one is more lasting as we go up the pleasure ladder. So, um, you know, when a person is in active addiction, they feel estrangement, they feel cut off, they feel lonely, anxious, depressed. And so, this is how we build connection. This is how we bring ourselves back into the world through practicing gratitude on the physical level. Next level up, love. And should I go up? Should I keep going?
Let's go back to love real quick. So, appreciating the virtues of another. What if you don't have anyone in your life?
They don't have to be present right then, like the person in prison.
Okay.
A grandmother once did a kindness for them, and they focus on that, they can get uplifted.
Okay. Okay. So, it can be any act of kindness from anyone throughout your whole life. Okay.
Exactly. Where we focus our energy, that's what grows, you know?
Hmm.
So if you focus on the kindness of people, that that's what grows in your life. Yeah.
Can you also appreciate the virtues of self love? Like, could you also think about moments during your life that you loved yourself? Does that work, or I'm breaking the letter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This whole thing is about self-love.
Oh,
This When we increase gratitude in our lives, we are giving ourselves such compassionate care. This is how we love ourselves more and more through practicing gratitude. These exercises are exercises in loving care.
perfect. Understood. All right. So, physical, love. What's next?
Next comes meaning, doing good and meaningful things. When we do something good and meaningful, when we can give back in gratitude to the world, it makes us really feel good. Again, and it takes us out of a place of estrangement and connects us to the world. So I was on another show, and when I got to this level, the host said that the day before, he
Mm,
was eating pizza all by himself, a whole big box of pizza.
all right.
And after he finished the first two slices, he was about to plow through the whole rest of the box and just finish it himself. And suddenly there was a knock on his door, and his neighbor needed his help for 2 minutes. He comes back. He doesn't want the pizza anymore. He looks at it. He could put it in the fridge for another day. What changed? What changed in those 2 minutes?
He had a human interaction.
Yeah, he was able to gratefully give to another. That changes you. he formed a connection. It took him out of himself. He was focused on himself, feeling miserable, feeling lonely. And what do you do when you're feeling that way? You feel a scarcity of pleasure in your life. So food brings pleasure. It brings immediate pleasure. It was designed that way. This was designed to bring us pleasure in orange. But we process food, we make addictive foods, and those foods, they do bring immediate pleasure, but then they do like corrosive things to our body and they're addictive. While this food, like the natural foods, they are delicious and nutritious, while the ultra processed food is delicious and addictive. So it's designed to be delicious, but it's designed to really make you have addictive behavior. So when you're feeling a scarcity of pleasure in your life and you eat something, you feel immediate pleasure. So then you just want to keep stuffing your face to keep that immediate pleasure coming if you're focused on the scarcity of pleasure in your life. If you can remember about the pleasure ladder, then you recognize there's an abundance of ways I can bring pleasure into my life this moment. I don't have to keep stuffing my face, especially with unhealthy food. And I can bring this gratitude into my life in infinite number of ways.
Okay, so let me see if I understand. The scarcity of pleasure leads to addiction. All right. So, but I think it's important to point out that there's different types of pleasure, right? The healthy ones and the unhealthy ones. So you gave us the example as eating healthy food and ultra processed food. So the healthy pleasure would be eating the healthy food, the one that comes from nature, and the unhealthy pleasure would be the ultra processed one. And I think that comes. It can also. I can also give an example when you hang out with people that you know are not good for you, or when you hang out with people that are good for you. That works?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. What makes you feel grateful afterwards? You
Mm.
know, after you eat an orange, you're left with a lot of gratitude, especially if you focus on it. So we want to enjoy things that that nourish both our bodies and our souls. The way to nourish both our bodies and our soul is to add the gratitude piece. That's what fills our soul. Because our souls are genuinely hungry. In other words, our souls were meant to be filled with gratitude. And if we're not experiencing gratitude, then we actually have this pit that doesn't get filled. And when we finish eating the whole container of ice cream, we're left feeling emptier than we were before we ever ate the ice cream.
I see. So the gratitude, the feeling that you have after the experience, tells you about the quality of the pleasure, if it was a healthy, good pleasure or unhealthy, good pleasure. But I really like the fact that you mentioned ice cream because I found a loophole. I recently bought an ice cream machine, and that's not a sponsor. I really bought an ice cream machine, and I think it was like last month. Since then, like it's really hot right now in Germany, I've been eating ice cream every single day, and for the first time of my life, from in my life, after the experience, after I ate the whole bucket of the ice cream, I did not feel bad about myself, and because now that I have an ice cream machine, I actually can put healthy stuff inside. I don't put tons of sugar. I put like milk.
Excellent.
I don't even know the fake sugar. How does this called? I don't know how it's called in English.
Just call it fake sugar.
Yeah,
That's good.
fake sugar, which is way healthier, and that's about it. And okay, maybe a little bit of something like apple, and then like slices of apple, and that's it. And I eat the whole thing. It tastes amazing, and I don't feel bad after.
Terrific.
And I feel lighter, and I feel good about myself. So
Awesome. I think you're eating a healthy ice cream.
Yeah.
Um, hopefully the fake sugar you're using is a healthy kind of fake sugar. There's some that are really healthy, like for instance, like raw honey can be really
Mm.
healthy. Like so, there's definitely ways to. The closer you can eat things to the way that they appear in this world in a whole state, the better. Yeah. Then you get its vitality.
Yeah.
You actually experience the vitality that's packed into the food. The food is designed to be pleasurable for us. It could have been that we took a tasteless pill every day and that's all the fuel that we need. Or it could have been we didn't need any fuel at all. It's designed to be pleasurable. It's designed that we live in this garden and really enjoy it. But we make things confusing instead by processing them in such a way that they almost have n- very little to resemblance to the original piece of vitality that they once were. Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And nowadays, like most people, they are so tired and overwhelmed about their work. They just want to get home and put something in the microwave, and like they don't have time. That's what they tell to themselves. They don't have time. I don't have time to take care of my body, take care of my health. I'm just tired. Yeah, sure, you do have time. You just don't want to, or you don't. You conditioned yourself to not want to.
Yes.
I was watching an interview from who was Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was just reading some comments online. They were telling him, Arnold, I don't have time to the gym. I don't have time to go exercise. And it was like, just wake up earlier. I used to wake up at 4 a.m. There's no excuses. You have 24 hours during the day. If you cannot find 1 hour to exercise and move your body, like that's on you, you know?
Exactly. Cause what good is wealth if you don't have health?
Yeah,
It's pointless. We 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 were given these bodies that house our souls. We got to take care of them. Like one of my books is called Let's Stay Healthy. I wrote this during the pandemic because I was getting requests from parents. Our children are home. They are they're not eating right, they're not sleeping right, they're not exercising. And they knew, like, I have a background in medicine and my background is in science. I love it. Can you explain to children why? Why is it important to eat healthy? Why is exercise important? Why is sleep good? So that's what I do. I explain it's so important to take care of these houses for our souls. In order for our souls to shine as brightly as possible, we also need to take care of the bodies in which they're housed.
of course, of course, of course. All right, so I think I'm derailing you. I derailed the whole thing with
No,
my
you can
ice
you
cream.
can you can try to take me off the ladder, but I'm sticking there. Don't worry, I'm staying on the ladder. Yeah.
All right, so I think we were talking about meaning, right? Number three.
Yeah, meaning that's the middle level right here. And actually this corresponds the lowest level. It
Physical.
corresponds to our senses and our limbs, the lowest level, because we experience touch and all that. Love corresponds to our heart, meaning corresponds to our brain. And the next level up is kind of surprising.
All right.
It's creativity. So this is even higher than meaning. You know, when you're being creative, that like you're not even aware that time is passing. You're in a zone of pleasure that is so intense, you don't feel like eating or sleeping when you're in the midst of that creative zone. So that's and when we remember to be grateful, when we are being creative, oh my gosh, it takes the whole ego out of it. Then you don't have to worry about falling or failing. You just enjoy being creative. So that is the the spiritual way to be creative, the joyful way to be creative. Yeah, and the grateful way to be creative. So that's the next to the highest level.
All right. So creativity removes the ego out of the equation.
It can.
It can.
We could be extremely ego focused when we're being creative, but if we add in the gratitude piece, that changes everything.
Okay, okay. Because now I agree with you. Because before I didn't. I worked. So besides my podcast, BruCast, I also work in the gaming industry, develop video games for PlayStation, Xbox, PC. So as you can imagine, it's a highly creative field. And I was about to say no, creative. There's a bunch of creative people that I know that are the most egotistical people that I
Exactly.
ever met. So yeah, you need the gratitude in there to remove that ego.
Exactly. It changes the everything. It changes the competitiveness because we recognize we are really just channels for this endless energy that's flowing through the universe from this cosmic source of energy. When we recognize that, oh my gosh, it takes away all that ego, called edging God out. And it just fills us with gratitude that we're able to bring out what's the unique part of ourselves. In this part, we're giving to another, but like anybody could have helped his neighbor move the furniture. But we're putting a unique part of ourselves into the world, and that gives us so much gratitude because each of us has a unique light that no other person has.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned Albert Einstein earlier during the conversation, and there's this beautiful quote by Albert Einstein that I love, and it's all about creativity, in my opinion. So the quote goes, "Play is the highest form of research." Have you heard of this before?
Yes, exactly. You see, that's why I'm writing children's books. This is it. Exactly. Play. It's also the best way to create new habits and break bad habits. There was a study done that it takes 400 repetitions to break a bad habit and create a new good habit. If done playfully, if done joyfully and playfully, 10 to 20 repetitions, and we've got the new habit down. That's the secret. That's the secret to my children's books. When children reread books, they don't just read them once. They sit there, they got the books in their homes, they keep reading them. This is how they instill new good habits because in every one of my books, there's gratitude is tucked into every single one of them. Sometimes it's more obvious, sometimes it's more hidden, but the teaching of gratitude is in all of my books. So that's what's getting instilled into the very young children. And it's also getting instilled into the adults reading children. People don't realize children's books are read by every single age because adults are reading it, elderly people, grandparents are reading it to their children, and even teenagers, they see the books laying around and they'll pick it up and they'll look at it when no one's looking. So it reaches everybody.
I agree because I mean, some of them have really nice artworks. So I end up picking some of them from time to time. I picked a couple of children's books when I moved to Germany to learn German. So yeah, I totally understand, like all ages, for sure, for sure. So I moved. I know. I'm remembering all the quotes today. There's this quote also from Pablo Picasso. He said that every child is an artist. Every one of them. The problem is remaining an artist once you grow up. So I think he's also indirectly talking about being creative because a lot of adults, whenever they grow up, they just give up on being creative, on being playful. Like now I need to dress my, how do you say in English? Like there's this English term, put up my big boy pants, something like I don't know if it applies, but you know what I mean, right? And
Yes.
they just stop drawing, they stop writing poems, they stop every and any form of creative activity, and that's, in my opinion, just kills the soul. And
Yes. Now you know that. Now you know what nourishes the soul. So that's it. You see, that's exactly what you said. This is what nourishes the soul. It 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 helps us to be more fluid, more flowing in life because that creative energy is flowing through us. Exactly. And that brings me to the highest level of the pleasure ladder, which is called transcendence. It's just what you said. Like Pablo Picasso was saying, what people lose as they get older is the sense of awe and wonder. That's at that highest level of transcendence. You know, when you've been under a starry sky at night and you are filled with that sense of awe and wonder out in the country, it never leaves you. It's a pleasure that's lasting forever. And they have found, research again has found that the state of awe and wonder, the most disease fighting chemicals are produced in the body when we are in that state of awe and wonder. So it's healthiest for our bodies and our souls to maintain that in life. Um, and that's the thing also, I feel very blessed because of learning this wisdom, that I can write these children's books because I really identify as a child still, and I can get into that place, that sense of awe and wonder and curiosity about the world. And usually the lead characters in my books is a 6-year-old boy. I'm relating to that mind space and that sense of awe and wonder that child sees. So uh, uh, so the pleasure ladder basically, oh, here's a description of it. Oh, good. You want to bring that up? Yo, go for that. Do that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you mentioned that a couple of scientists looked on how awe and wonder can help your immune system and your like overall health.
Yes.
Do you remember? Like, I'm just looking it up because that's amazing. That's really interesting.
I believe that it was in Psychology Today.
Okay, okay.
If
So,
that helps you to find where the studies were done.
keep your sense of wonder, psychology today. So, stay open. Oh. Well, let's accept all of those cookies. So stay open to freshness, wonder, gratitude, and awe instead of taking things for granted. Being amazed brings you to the truth of things and the relationship with the inherent mysteries and overwhelming gifts of existence. Okay, so try to see more of your world in this way, as if you're seeing it for the first time. Okay, but it doesn't talk anything about bringing
The
health.
studies.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Let's see if it's in this article. I don't know.
Being amazed. A word was amazed. The practice. Maybe that's not the article per se.
Don't know.
But I can imagine, because the brain affects, like, just your state of mind affects so much
Exactly.
everything else. I think like they made so many placebo studies, right? And people, just by believing that they're healthy, they recover. So I can understand. I can imagine how just feeling a sense of awe and wonder and appreciation for the universe and life, it brings all this amazing benefits to your health. I can imagine. So yeah. Let's stop sharing.
Well, for instance, it gets the happy hormones flowing. So for sure, that immediately affects your health.
Yeah, for sure. I want to share a personal story real quick, if that's okay.
Please.
So when I was around, I would say 16, 17, something like that, me and my grandparents, we decided to do a motorcycle trip from Brazil, from São Paulo to Deserto do Atacama, so in the Atacama Desert in Chile, right? And it was like in my mind at the time was just one more of those trips. I can't take that anymore. It was so boring. It completely changed my life. And it was one night we went in the middle of the desert to observe the stars. And for those who know, the Atacama Desert is considered one of the driest places on Earth, and there's no light pollution whatsoever, which means you can see the brightest and clearest sky that you will ever see. And I remember to the I even getting chills right now. I'm not joking. I remember to this day we went into the hut where we had the whole explanation. It was still daytime, and we had the food and explanation of what we're gonna see and how the night would go. And at the time we exit the hut, it was already night. And as soon as I exit the hut, we all exit the hut and looked upon the night sky. Like to this day, I will never forget. It felt like a movie. It felt like I was out there in the universe. You could see like the Milky Way. That was amazing. Like I thought like those type of images could only be achieved like via NASA, through telescopes. No, you can actually see the sky, the Milky Way, and billions of stars with the naked eye. You just need to be like in the Atacama Desert. But
Yes.
and my point being is, I feel to this day that that moment at least, I achieved that level one of the pleasure ladder, the transcendence. I had this sense of awe and wonder, and that I will never forget. It was really incredible.
Exactly. That's the highest level. It's the most lasting level. So it stays with you your entire life. It's incredible. That's exactly you are the proof of exactly that. That's the pleasure ladder. On my website, I just want to say people can download a free chart of the pleasure ladder with many. It's not simple like this. It's got the details that I explained a lot. And I encourage people to put it on their fridge or their cabinet, so if they feel like overeating, they will immediately be reminded that there's so many other ways to bring pleasure into their lives instead in that moment. People get stuck in habits of just stuffing their faces to bring in more pleasure. And there's an abundance of ways. We don't have to be limited to that. Whichever addiction a person is in, they're just trying desperately to find physical things to stuff inside them or behaviors, but it's not a physical hole. It's a spiritual hole that is only filled with gratitude. And that's the price to pay to climb the pleasure ladder. Gratitude is all you got to pay to climb the ladder. There's nothing to lose. All you get is more joy in your life by practicing gratitude.
Okay, so gratitude is the price you pay to climb the pleasure ladder. Perfect. All right. Um, that was amazing. I don't know what else to add. Do you have anything else that you'd like to mention about the pleasure ladder?
That's the summary of the pleasure ladder. And it was taught to me by a rabbi who's no longer alive, Rabbi
Okay.
Noah Weinberg. But he came up with this concept, explaining it in a very relevant way. But it's based again on ancient Kabbalistic teachings that have been brought forth. So it's yeah, and that's what I do. My whole life now, I follow. You asked what my practices are. From the minute I wake up until I go to sleep, I'm practicing gratitude exercises. The guidelines from my heritage teach that the first words out of my mouth when I wake up in the morning are thank you. So that's how it starts. Feeling thankful for a new day of life that I have. Yeah.
That's beautiful. For how many years now have you been practice that?
Well, I learned about this when I was 22, and now I'm 68, thank God.
That's amazing. I watched a short from Jordan Peterson the other day, and he talks about how everyone in this life has a God hole. So basically, has this hole inside of them that can only be filled by God. And I think it's his interpretation of the pleasure ladder. That's the way I see it. Like how you can actually only feel that emptiness inside of you through gratitude. I think a lot of people uh, use God as a way of interpreting this. That's that
Yes,
that's what yeah.
exactly. How some people have defenses against the concept of God. Some people have a confused view of God, a limited view of God.
Mm,
And what we say is, I don't believe in the God you don't believe in either, because that a vengeful, angry God, I consider those gross misinterpretations. It's a cosmic force. It's how Einstein understood God. It's something that we can all relate to. And the more we practice mindful gratitude, the more we can reveal the presence of this cosmic force in the universe that is really flowing through everything. The vegetation that's giving us oxygen, we give it the carbon dioxide it needs. It's all these cycles just keep flowing. And I mean, we'd be in a state of complete bliss if we were always aware of this every moment. But inside our brains are also given by this cosmic force a voice that's telling us to be miserable all day long. There's this voice in there that's getting us to focus on what we're lacking and what we are missing in our lives. We have to overcome that voice, that constant nagging. And every time we do, that's our personal trainer put inside of each of us. Each time we do, what do we grow when we lift those weights off of us? We grow our gratitude muscles. So that's one of my newest books is called Don't Read This Book. This book, it's the voice of that nagging voice in our heads trying to get us all to be miserable. It's normal and natural. And our job is to recognize that voice is there and overcome it with gratitude. So I teach children early in life how to outsmart that voice by learning the way that it operates. So if you learn what it's doing, you can overcome it.
beautiful. Braca, so you also wrote another
For children as well, this book is only for adults, right? That's Nourish the Soul.
beautiful, and
Yeah.
it's already available. It's already out, right?
All my books are published. There's more coming out soon. Yeah, thank God it's helping hundreds of thousands of people around the world, the books. So I'm so grateful. They're saving lives. I have books teaching about the prevention of abuse of children, teaching children this. I get calls from so many grateful parents. So this is all part of keeping our bodies healthy, protected, keeping our children safe, and keeping our bodies nourished and our souls nourished. Yeah.
Wonderful. Could you remind everyone your website and where they can find you online?
Yeah, my children have created an amazing website. It's called the Goetz Bookshop, www.goetzbookshop.com. And you could see how to spell Goetz. It's spelled funny, Goetz. And you could find all my books, and you could find the pleasure that ladder there that you can download for free. And I just want to keep spreading this because we need so much more joy in this world.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Braca. It was an honor. I really enjoyed talking to you, getting to know you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this and helping to inspire people.
Of course. Thank you very much. All right, everyone. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to rank the show 5 stars. I'm sorry, I had some technical issues here. Make sure to like and subscribe. There you go. Like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast recommends to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the BruCast store, Explorer store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay style with BruCast. Embrace the shock. Set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. I repeat, brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. BruCast also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where we upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now. BruCast on Instagram, X, and TikTok. All links on the description below. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Bracha, thank you so very much. And see you next time. Bye-bye.